Hey biologists! So today we spoke about nucleic acids and proteins, the final two biological molecules. Yesterday we talked about carbohydrates and lipids, so if you need a little extra help on that, go to yesterday's videos. Today's class we did review it, but I'm probably not going to take the time to review it in this video. Here I will give you the slides. You can take a screenshot of this if you need to, so go ahead. All right. And I'm going to move on through this. All right, you guys. So the first biological molecule we're going to talk about today are nucleic acids, short for Na. If you've ever heard of DNA and RNA, these are examples of nucleic acids. They're very important. Their function is to contain and store all the genetic information that makes you who you are. So the color of your eyes, the way your hair falls, if it's curly or straight, how big your feet are, the color of your hair, the color of your skin, all of this comes from the nucleic acids that have the information. This information eventually gets sent and controls the production of proteins. So really important, number one, nucleic acids contain and store genetic information and control everything else in the cell. They control everything, have all the instructions for how everything works in my body and the way that I look. All right, so really, really important. Kind of already said this, but DNA and proteins are pretty interconnected. DNA, again, holds the information and provides the instructions that actually makes the proteins. So we have millions of proteins. And again, proteins that control how big my nose is, how blonde my hair is, how wide my shoulders are, everything about me. All right, so here are your two examples of nucleic acids. We have DNA on the right-hand side and RNA on the left-hand side. As you see, the DNA is double-stranded. DNA is double-stranded. DNA is short for deoxyribonucleic acid that you can see down at the bottom. So DNA is not only double-stranded, but we need to look at something called the nitrogen bases. This is what gives us our DNA sequence, if you've ever heard of that. So when you think of nitrogen bases, which we'll talk about in a second, we see the letters C, G, A, and T. If we go over to RNA, we notice that the letters are a little bit different. C, G, A, and U. Instead of a T, we have a U in RNA. Another difference that you see in RNA as compared to DNA is RNA is single-stranded. So again, a couple differences. DNA is double-stranded and contains the nitrogen bases C, G, A, and T. RNA is single-stranded and contains the nitrogen bases C, G, A, and U. All right. Again, RNA is single-stranded, DNA is double-stranded. And both RNA, which stands for ribonucleic acid, and DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid, are both essential for all living things. All right, so to dive in a little bit deeper, the monomer of my nucleic acids is known as a nucleotide. A nucleotide has 3 parts. I repeat, 3 parts. Number 1, a 5-carbon sugar. Number 2, a phosphate group. And number 3, that nitrogen base. Again, that nitrogen base changes from an A, T, G, C, or U. That is how it makes us different from one another. So a DNA sequence for the color blue eyes would be something like ATTG. If you have brown eyes, your DNA sequence for that protein that makes your eyes brown could be something like GGCA. So that's where you get the DNA sequence from. And again, there's 3 parts. You guys can look at the pictures down here. The 5-carbon sugar, the phosphate group, and the nitrogen base. And as far as the different elements that are in this, we have carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, and phosphorus.